The joy of responding to a ticket, completing what you think to be a great response, particularly if it's around a sticky subject or to a difficult customer, it gives you a great feeling. There's almost a feeling of relief to have got to an answer or resolution, and all you have to do now is press send and you can move on, hopefully to something more straightforward. But don't rush to get it off your plate. Don't hit send yet. Like all good pieces of writing, you need to let it sit. You need to make sure your response is the best it can possibly be. How many times have you completed a ticket, rushed it back to the customer, only to be bitten again shortly afterwards, and that sinking feeling comes back? If you have similar habits to an old mindset of mine, of trying to get things out of the door quickly, then I suspect that's happened a lot. Do you recognize the feeling of hitting a send button with one eye almost closed, slightly turned away from your screen with a feeling of, I'm sure it'll be fine, running around in your mind? Well, that's your habit trigger. When you feel those kinds of emotions or recognize that send button click with an almost embarrassed feeling, it's time to stop, reflect, and change that habit. The reason for that semi-embarrassed feeling is that you know the customer is going to come back to you quickly. They aren't going to be satisfied with your answer for any number of reasons. Perhaps they won't understand how to complete something you've prescribed. Perhaps they won't accept or maybe even believe your answer. Perhaps you know that they won't like the bad news you're giving them. Perhaps you're not even answering their question properly or any proportion of it. Subconsciously, you know one or some of these things are true when you hit that send button, but secretly, you're hoping to get away with it. So we've all had that feeling, haven't we? It's not just me. 99 times out of 100, you won't get away with it either. And rather than writing that one superhero response, the ticket being closed and the customer being content with the response, you end up spending half the week responding to the thread or taking their calls. And clearly, that's not good use of time. Perhaps more importantly, that's not great for your mental state either. So let's figure out how to avoid this type of scenario happening. Before you hit that send button, there's a mental checklist to run through. Some of these items can be skipped if it's a benign response, but all of them need to be ticked if you're dealing with a tricky, nagging ticket or a difficult customer. So check for suitable language. When you review your response, think about the customer you're writing to, if you know them personally. If you don't know them and you can only react to the words on the ticket, match your language to theirs. If they're informal, then you should go in that direction too. If they sign off as Mr. Smith, address them as Mr. Smith. Details like that really matter to many people. The little things will always get noticed and remembered, which is one of the key tenets of this program. Multiple small actions compound to create something much bigger. I've mentioned previously that I was taught to reread an email and take out as many words as I could, and that's really stuck with me. So often, when you create an initial draft of a response, you use more words than necessary. Go through every line and look to remove additional words or rewrite sentences with fewer words. Why? Because less is more. And the fewer words in the response, the clearer it will be and the more likely it will be understood. Fewer words shouldn't mean less warm in tone, however. Strike a balance. Is your sign-off and/or signature correct? Add a PS with something quirky or personal, only if you think that's appropriate. Customers will always love the personal approach. Remember your human customer service ethos. You need to check you've answered the question. Customers often ask multiple questions on a single thread. Have you answered them all, or just the one or two that you knew the answer to? Are you secretly hoping they won't notice the one that you've not answered? Bad news here. I can assure you they will notice. You can rest assured it's probably the most important answer that they needed too. And finally, as you get more practiced at responding to tickets and harnessing some of the tactics in this program, The need to check a response will become less over time, as you'll be more familiar with the details that you should be looking for as you write them. You'll generally become more fluent. Until that point though, check, 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 and avoid that one-eyed, slightly looking away, send button click. Aim to feel proud of your responses every time.